Hey guys, the first lesson in Unit 3 is solving multi-step equations. And so today we will begin solving multi-step equations. We're going to start by writing down the 4 steps to solving multi-step equations. Step number 1 is you need to use the distributive property if necessary. Again, you won't always need to, and so if you need to, you will distribute. Step 2, you will combine like terms, and that is if needed. And so there are going to be problems where sometimes you have to combine like terms and sometimes you don't. So steps 1 and 2 are only if you need to. Step 3 will be to solve the remaining equation. Okay, so you're going to solve the remaining equation, and we're going to solve it by using the inverse operation. Inverse operation. You're going to hear me say that a lot throughout this lesson. The inverse operation means you can think about it in terms of like the opposite operation. So if I'm talking about the inverse operation of addition, the inverse or the opposite of addition is subtraction. The inverse operation of multiplication is division, and so on and so forth. Okay, so inverse operation is the opposite, or think the opposite operation. And then lastly, you are going to check your solution. To check your solution, I'm going to encourage you to use the Desmos calculator. For this lesson, I will not show you how to, but in class, I will show you how to use the Desmos calculator in order to check your solution. So pause this video and take a moment to write these 4 steps down, and then I'm going to finish this lesson by showing you 3 examples. All right, now we're going to jump into 3 examples of how to solve multi-step equations. First example. In this one, we have 2 times the difference of 3x and 5 equals 26. And so first step is to use the distributive property. In this problem, there is something to distribute. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to take the 2 and I am going to distribute it to both the 3x and to the negative 5. So I am doing 2 times 3x, and I am doing 2 times negative 5. So again, I am distributing the 2. 2 times 3x is going to give me 6x. 2 times negative 5 is going to give me negative 10. Then I'm going to bring down the rest of my equation, which is equals 26. Once I get here, step 2 said combine like terms. There are no like terms in order to combine. So I'm going to move on to step 3. Step 3 says to solve the rest of the equation using the inverse operation. So I have 6x minus 10 equals 26. So I am in solving the equation, I am trying to get the x, or the variable, by itself. That is the goal of solving an equation, is to get the variable by itself. So I got to get rid of the negative 10 and the 6 so that I can only have the variable by itself. So I'm going to start by getting rid of the constant. And so this is a negative 10, so I'm going to do the inverse operation, which is the inverse of minus 10 would be a positive 10, or to add 10. And because I have an equation, whatever you do to one side, you also have to do to the other side in order to keep it balanced. So I have plus 10 here. I'm going to add 10 to the other side. So a negative 10 and a plus 10 or positive 10 is going to just cancel each other out. So I can just mark those out. I get 0, they cancel each other out. Then on this left side, I just have the 6x, so I'm just going to bring that down. So I have 26. On the other side, I have 26 plus 10, and that's going to give me 36. So I have 6x equals 36. Now, I'm going to continue to solve by using the inverse operation, or by doing the inverse operation. So this 6x, the operation that is there, even though I don't see it, it is multiplication. Whenever you have a coefficient next to a variable, you are multiplying. So I have 6 times x equals 36. Well, to do the inverse operation of multiplication, it is division. So I am going to now divide by 6 in order to get the x by itself. Whatever I do to one side, I also have to do to the other side. So the 6x divided by 6. 6 divided by 6 is really just going to give me 1. And because I'm just going to have a 1 in front of the x, I don't have to write that 1. So in other words, they just kind of cancel each other out, just like when I did the negative 10 and the positive 10 canceled each other out. So I'm only left with x here. And I have x equals 36 divided by 6. And when I do that, I'm going to get 6. And so the answer is x equals 6. Now, at this time, you can use the decimals calculator and you can enter x equals 6 and then enter the expression, and you should get 26 as your answer. And that is how you check your work. All right. At this time, I'm going to go ahead and do the second example. All right, here's example number 2. This time we have a fraction in there. Even though that fraction's there, I'm still going to treat it as if it was a whole number. And so in this problem, there is a number to distribute. Okay, it's this fraction, this 1/2. So I am going to distribute the 1/2. So I have 1/2 times 1/2 times negative 10x. Then I have 1/2 times negative 16. And so 1/2 times negative 10 is going to give me negative 5x. Again, if you don't know how to do that, you can just enter that into the calculator and you will get negative 5. Then I'm going to do 1/2 times negative 16. 1/2 times negative 16 is going to give me, a negative 8. And then I'm just bringing down the rest of my equation. So I have distributed the 1/2. At this point, I'm going to do the inverse operation in order to get the variable by itself. So the inverse operation, I'm going to take this minus 8, I'm going to do the inverse, which the opposite of a minus, or the inverse of subtract 8 would be to add 8. So now I'm going to add 8 to both sides, because in an equation, whatever I do to one side, I also have to do to the other side. This negative 8 and this plus 8 are going to cancel each other out. Then I'm just going to bring down this negative 5x equals, I have negative 48 plus 8, and that is going to give me a negative 40. At this point, I have negative 5 times x equals negative 40. In order to get the variable by itself, I'm going to do the inverse operation. The inverse of negative 5 times x would be to divide it by negative 5. Whatever I do to one side, I also have to do to the other side. Negative 5 divided by negative 5 is going to cancel each other out, leaving me with just x equals negative 40 divided by negative 5. A negative divided by a negative is going to give me a positive 8. And that is my answer. So to check it, I would put into decimals x equals 8. Then I would put in my expression. Then it should give me the negative 48 as the answer. All right. And for this last one, this last example is I have just flipped the variable to the other side. But ladies and gentlemen, it's exactly the same. I'm going to do the same steps for this problem. And so I'm going to go ahead and do that now. I'm going to distribute this 3 to both the x and the 12. 3 times x is going to give me 3x. 3 times 12 is going to give me a positive 36. Then I'm going to bring the rest down. Now I'm going to do the inverse operation. Get rid of this plus 36 by doing minus 36. The inverse operation The inverse of addition is subtraction. That's going to cancel that out. 18 minus 36 is going to give me a negative 18. Then I'm going to bring the rest of my equation down, equals 3x. This is 3 times x. So the inverse of multiplication is division. So I'm going to do that to both sides, because in an equation, whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. 3 divided by 3 is going to just cancel that out, leaving me with x equals negative 18 divided by 3 is going to give me a negative 6. In order to check my answer, I can put it into decimals. X equals negative 6. Put in this part of the equation, and I'm going to get 18 as my answer. And ladies and gentlemen, that is how you solve multi-step equations with the variable on one side using the distributive property. Now, in the next lesson, we are going to have to do all of the steps where we have to distribute and combine like terms. But for this lesson, I wanted to only have you distribute. We will get to the next part of this lesson, the other step in the next lesson.